I promise I wasn't even going to respond. But a lot of y'all are disingenuous and it needs to be pointed out. What Jay say? Mother lovers say that I'm foolish. I only talk about jewels. Do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? Do y'all even listen to the content with the intent to understand what's being said? Or do y'all skim through it looking for something to be triggered by? Let me start by pointing out the obvious. That video was targeted to a specific demographic, evident by the first 3 words of the title and the first 2 words spoken on the video. Young man, not young woman, not middle-aged woman, not older woman. But once again, y'all saw a title, saw a thumbnail, got emotionally charged, and ran off with it. I never said the young man was poor. In fact, the young men that I had in mind were many of the young men that have a lot going for themselves. Evident by, quote, I know as men, we love to compete. We love to show that we're capable of handling anything. We love to show that we're better than the next guy. He ain't got nothing on me. I get all of that. And that's exactly how we all should feel. End quote. I never said, young man, if she ain't into you when you ain't got nothing, she ain't the one. I never said, young man, she need to be with you while you try to figure out what you want to do in life. She need to be with you while you on the bus and eating noodles and hot dogs. And, she need to be there to give you a couple dollars if you broke. I never said none of that. I would never advise any young man who isn't where he wants to be in life to focus any of his attention on a young lady. Not 1 second. Build yourself, young man. They will be there. Because something I've said many a times is if you're faking to get her, what you gonna do when you got her? That video was dropped on Valentine's Day for young men who had proposed or who had planned on proposing, giving them one last thing to be sure of before they made a marriage official. I used real life events, things that really happened, that were unfortunate, unforeseen, uncontrollable, and most importantly, no matter how confident we are as people, could have happened to any of us. Events that may introduce a situation where you have to struggle with the default position in every example being someone doing well until that event happened. Y'all are the ones projecting a different scenario than that which was given. That he has nothing going on in life and once again, black women are expected to struggle and once he does well, he's going to leave her for someone else. Poor people always get successful and then they find someone who looks better. I even gave physical and mental health examples that are a reality for thousands, if not millions of couples daily. But we want our young brothers to bet their futures on any black woman because she's a black woman and just hope she's right for him. No, he has to vet that woman thoroughly. That is a huge commitment, a huge investment, one of the most important decisions of his life. If he doesn't get this right, he and others suffer tremendously. It has more than just financial ramifications. In most cases, children become collateral damage. He is choosing who he wants to try and build a legacy with. And y'all want him to just roll the dice. Y'all are disingenuous. Why is that young man not deserving of a woman that's all the way down for him? A woman of high character who understands the volatility of life. Why do we not want that marriage built on a solid foundation? A foundation that's poured of principles, that's enduring and forgiving. Every day somebody takes a risk to achieve something better for themselves or their families. And every day somebody fails. But that failure for a lot of people shows them how to better approach it next time, which leads to success. There are many lessons that can only be taught by living life. There isn't one amongst us who hasn't been knocked down at some point. May that be financially, mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And before you go typing, not me, understand that God humbles like no other. Someone said, I'm not even experienced enough to speak on this. Holla back in 20 years when I'm 50. And how did you come to that conclusion? Better yet, what was the point of the comment? To try and discredit the messenger because you don't like the message? You didn't even refute a point in the message. Isn't that the same thing the media does to try and justify when something happened to us? But since you brought up my experience, let's speak on it. I'll actually be 50 years old in 11 years, God willing, of course. And on my 50th birthday, I would have been married at that point for 28 years, being with my wife for 31 years. How many 50-year-olds you know that been married that long? There are people who are 50 years old who don't have the 17 years of marriage I already have under my belt. Would you trust the experience of a 17-year mechanic, electrician, doctor, lawyer? It only takes 13 years to become a surgeon, 10 years to become an astronaut. I would say I'm more than qualified to speak on this. After all, I was talking to young men, And who better to talk to a young man about his young marriage than someone who was in that position as a young man? But I've actually already written an essay on implicit bias, so y'all will get that lesson soon. Another person was saying, and I'm paraphrasing, that it's plausible for two truly whole people to get together and live life without struggle. And I probably would concur if we could definitively identify what constitutes being whole as a person. And even if we could, is that something that could be achieved by a young man and a young woman? I know it took me to at least 26 to feel like I truly matured, but then I made decisions at 29, 31, 33, 34 that I would not have made today at 39. I'm pretty sure there are men and women who are older than me who can look back and identify the growth they've had since 39. And what if being with that person makes the other feel whole? I'll remind y'all that the name of this channel is Reality is Undefeated. And the reality is that the world is full of average people, yet everyone wants to act like they're not a part of the average. The average person cannot survive on their own. The average person is scraping by in this country. That's why people are complaining about inflation, because life is hard. And that's not a knock on the average person, because they were never supposed to be alone in the first place. Humans are social creatures. None of us lives outside of a society. We all speak of a tongue that's native to another. It takes two people to create a life. There is nothing on this earth built by one person. You can go out into the woods right now, gather material, and build a shelter for yourself. And you still didn't do that by yourself. Because the idea, nor the methods used to accomplish it, was conceptualized by you. You're not even born alone, as many of you claim to be. You literally come out of another body. This is why I did the video saying, stop lying to our youth. Because there are way too many adults who are way too comfortable initiating these younger generations into battles that don't belong to them. We've seen this for decades with gangs, recruiting our youngsters into a lifestyle that leads to nothing but death and destruction. Y'all are encouraging these young women to join this war because you decided to enslave yourself to it. A war that has led to the destruction of the family unit in our communities. One that has not shown to be fruitful in any way. But y'all will guide the next woman down that path, no problem. Brother Shatelko might need to remind some of y'all about the concept of the child soldier. At least I can answer him by saying I chose to go down the path of the men I admire from the past. I wasn't initiated into it. But let's get back to this, because I'm nowhere near done. Y'all heard me say, don't marry this one type of black woman, because she stated from jump that she cannot do the type of love that may be required in life at some point, and y'all have a problem with that? Have y'all forgotten what the vows entail? For better or worse? Richer or poor? Through sickness and health? Or have you not made it to that point yourself? And let's be very clear, not all of you deserve to be married. Some of you are trifling as hell and you don't deserve a damn thing. And furthermore, a lot of you don't want to be married. I thank women like this for identifying themselves, because they are clearly saying, I am not a wife. And these young brothers need to receive that message loud and clear. They should not go any further than dating, having fun, going to concerts, going on trips, etc. But nothing can be built with her because she is not interested in the process of building. She wants to walk into something that's built. And if he puts a ring on her finger and he can't maintain his status because his six-figure position is part of the 40% of the workforce forecasted to be replaced by AI, and now he loses his job, and all of the bills fall on her and her salary, and now the marriage is in jeopardy, that all falls on him. Because she told him from jump that she could not do struggle, and he didn't adhere to that warning because he had a supreme confidence in himself, and he could not see himself struggling because he has not lived long enough to understand that life is Satchel Paige, Randy Johnson, Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, all in one with what it throws at you. But we're going to act like the woman in that man's life that's going along for the ride deserves the same as the woman that will stand alongside him through anything. And not only is that disingenuous, but it's outright disrespectful to the many black women who have been great wives, who've been loyal, supportive, encouraging, and inspirational, who when that man stumbled, said, don't worry, that's what I'm here for, and picked up that man's slack, and they made it through that time of difficulty because of her. And they have something that they can look back on and say, we built all of this. Look at the legacy we're going to leave behind. Look at the rich tradition that we've imparted on our family. You know, the things that make you spiritually rich. I believe there are many good brothers and sisters that have a chance to leave a legacy of love on this earth. But remember, they are not whole. They have young, impressionable minds, and we have to be mindful of that. And I wish I could leave it right there. But there's another pressing issue, that being the father of 2 young adult daughters and one who's a preteen, I have to speak on. Because although I can never abandon Black women, I will never fail to hold you accountable. And today is, as Monica said, just one of those days. Black women, I too agree that you find yourself under attack, and that there are still multiple instances of inequality that finds itself at your doorstep. But the difference is, today, the attacker looks like you. And because of that, they are not called out for what they are by you. See, what we should have no problem with is holding each other to a standard, or as y'all love to put it, the bare minimum, because it improves the overall image and subsequent reception of Black women as a whole. The same women in my comments speaking against the advice that I'm giving to young men would tell their sons the same thing I'm saying if they were dealing with the same young women. Because they know she's not good for him, like I know she's not good for him, like we all know she's not good for him. But what they will not say is, young woman, you are not good for him. They won't give her that constructive criticism and help her identify the things that she needs to improve on so that she can enhance her chances of having better outcomes in the future. Y'all will leave that young woman out there on that island, but then jump behind a screen name and act like you really give a damn about that woman when a man says something. Again, disingenuous. But I have things I need to do, so I'll leave you with this. When I was 18 years old, I was talking to this young lady named Candace. And one night I called her phone, and her father picks up. And I asked, can I speak to Candace? He asked me what my name was. I said, Anthony. He said, well, Anthony, when you call my house, I need you to greet the person that answered the phone. Ask them how they're doing. State who you are, and then ask to speak to my daughter. But she's having dinner right now, so she can't speak. The next night, I called her home again, and her sister Crystal answered the phone. I said, hey, how you doing? My name is Anthony. Can I speak to Candace, please? And she says, oh, this young man sounds polite. And you could hear her father in the background. He said, who is that? She said, it's Anthony. He said, see, that's what I'm talking about. Candace was the last woman I talked to before I met my wife. Do you think the lesson that her father taught me didn't help me going forward? But speaking of Candace, I have another story to tell that Black women may want to hear, so stay tuned.